Madeline Martin is New York Times, USA Today, and Publishers Weekly best-selling author. She writes historical fiction and historical romance. Her new book is called The Secret Book Society, and she joins us today on Author's Note. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca.
Well, we're excited to dive into it, but I love to find out a lot of our authors have really, it's the second act of their careers. And I was looking at some of your information, and you came into being an author after a career in corporate America. Talk about how your background kind of led you to the current career of being a novelist.
Yeah, gosh, well, I think, the biggest thing was that I was basically writing and working as a business analyst at the exact same time. So I've been writing for over 20 years, and I was very fortunate that I had a job that kind of gave me the mental capacity when I came home to still be able to work on my writing. And so I was writing about 6 to 8 romances a year while working a full-time job as a business analyst. And I ended up getting laid off in 2020, right before the pandemic, which is what actually gave me the opportunity to really dig deep and start writing historical fiction. Before that, like I said, I was doing historical romance. And it was now I only write like one book a year, and writing is my only job. I'm very fortunate to be doing this for 5 years now. And so I used to joke that I was a full-time author, full-time business analyst, and full-time mom. And now I like to joke that I'm a full-time mom with this little writing gig on the side. And the kids always agree with that.
It's so much work, but I think that's what people don't see. They don't see the behind the scenes, how much work goes into this really dream career that you've got going now. So let's get into it. The Secret Book Society is set in Victorian London and centers around a book club, which I love this concept. Talk about what's happening in this book.
Yes. So basically, this is kind of a time period where women really were not being encouraged to read. In fact, quite the opposite. They felt that reading took away from women being mothers and wives. It was sort of seen as a selfish endeavor. They also felt like women didn't have the emotional fortitude to be able to go on the emotional journey that a novel would take them on. And so we have Lady Duxbury, who has this extensive library in her home, and she is a thrice widowed countess. And so there's definitely some talk about what's happened to her husbands and why so many of her husbands have died. And so she brings these women into her home under the banal auspices of a womanly tea with gossip. But it really is so much more subversive. It's kind of like this forbidden book club where they're able to read these books that are authored by women that have strong female protagonists, and they really find strength within one another. And it's kind of like an anti-Cinderella story because it is based off of this amazing story that I found in real life about a woman whose husband sent her to a lunatic asylum. And on the way, she was in a carriage and she saw a boy on the street and she gave him money and said, "Tell my friends I'm being taken." And he said, "Well, how will they know it's you?" So she took off her boot and she threw it out the window and said, "Take them that, they'll know it's me." So they do, and they're able to keep her from going to the lunatic asylum. And I thought, wow, the truth is stranger than fiction sometimes, right?
I
So
love
in the very
that.
beginning of the Secret Book Society, we have Lady Duxbury in her drawing room, and this boy is holding a boot, this black kid skin leather boot with rose embroidery on it that says, "Your friend has been taken."
Ooh, right there.
Dun, dun,
I want to,
dun.
yeah, right. I want to get to the next page. So I want to do one thing. I want to mention a comment here from Fiona Davis. This literary fusion of Bridgerton and the Chick's Goodbye Earl brims with mischievous glee. I love it. The Chick's Goodbye Earl and Bridgerton. Would you say that's an accurate mashup of what we're going to experience?
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
I love that. So when it comes to research, so you're doing historical fiction, how much research goes into something like this, the time period and that kind of thing?
I usually do about 10 months worth of research on my books. So I go on site and I've gone to London several times. I've been able to like walk around Victorian homes and really get a good feel for those. I usually I usually have about 100 nonfiction books that I utilize while I'm writing these books. And that doesn't mean I read them cover to cover. A lot of times, sometimes just like one chapter will be enough, but it's the implementation of all of that different, firsthand account and everything that sort of amalgamates into these books. and I take copious notes. And
I
so
love it.
I usually have about, oh my gosh, like 15 or so spiral bound notebooks completely filled with handwritten notes before I even start writing.
Well, that is a lot of work, but it's distilled into something totally fun to read. We love to follow you also on socials. Don't forget that Madeline is active on Facebook and Instagram, so definitely do that. Also, she's one of the Tall Poppy authors, and if you'd like to connect with an amazing group of women writing incredible books, just put your phone up right now to the QR code on the screen, and you'll be connected to a ton of these wonderful Tall Poppy writers. All right, Madeline Martin and the Tall Poppy authors for sure are going to be your next favorite book. Thank you for joining us, and don't miss the Secret Book Society. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're